For June 6, 2019 will come to order. I'll begin by calling the roll. Regent Barker.
Here.
Regent Bates.
Here.
Regent Butker.
Here.
Regent County.
Here.
Regent Dakovich is absent. Regent Dunkel.
Here.
Regent Least is absent. Regent Lindemeyer.
Here.
Regent Richards is present. We have a quorum and the meeting can begin. I'd now like to recognize each institution head to report on activities at their institution. We'll begin with President Wintersteen.
I always like it when the IT guy runs up to know.
Try to be quick.
See if I have the right presentation this time, not the University of Iowa. Very good. Okay, so there it is. Magic. Excellent. Well, as always, it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to provide you with an update about Iowa State University and to welcome you to our beautiful campus. This is the best time of the year to be on campus at Iowa State. Well, it was a historic spring for Iowa State University. Our spring graduating class of 2019 was our largest ever. More than 5,300 students completed their degrees. Woohoo. We also awarded our 145th honorary degree to Dr. Robert Easter, his President Emeritus of the University of Illinois. He was also the featured speaker at our morning undergraduate ceremony. Simon Estes was the featured speaker and vocalist at our afternoon undergraduate ceremony, sharing his thoughtful, inspiring, and emotional story of overcoming challenges of injustice with character and faith. It was truly a special weekend and a wonderful way to send off our graduates to their next adventure. Our students continue to excel and amaze us with their national honors. 4 Iowa State University students received Goldwater scholarships, the nation's premier undergraduate scholarship in mathematics, natural sciences, and engineering. Jacqueline Blom, a junior in physics and computer science from Bettendorf. Ada Kanoma, a junior in materials engineering from Minnesota. Nikita Kozak, a junior in mechanical engineering from Waukee. And Matthew Ryan, a junior in chemistry from Rochester, Minnesota. This year, Iowa State is only one of 20 institutions, including Yale, Stanford, Duke, and Ohio State, to have all of our nominees selected as scholars. So that's a big deal. A round of applause for our students. We also had 2 students named Udall Scholars, Carissa Mona, a junior in civil engineering from Elkader, and Jacob Wright, a junior in agronomy and environmental studies from Virginia. They are 2 of only 55 students from across the United States selected for this prestigious award. The Udall Foundation awards scholarships for leadership, public service, and commitment to issues related to environment or Native American nations. And finally, Colin Powell, a graduate student in interior design, has earned a Fulbright Award. As a recipient of the award, he will live in Vienna, Austria, where he will conduct research on the city's public housing with an emphasis on creating innovative housing solutions. He'll also take classes and teach English. Each spring, we welcome hundreds of Iowa high school students to Iowa State University to experience some Hilton magic and to join the fight against global hunger as part of the World Food Prize Iowa Youth Institute. This was the 8th year for this event, done in partnership with the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences and the World Food Prize. It also marked the last year for Ambassador Ken Quinn in his role as president of the World Food Prize. We're very grateful for his visionary leadership and the strong partnership that we've had with him over these years. I also want to recognize David Acker, Associate Dean for Global Agricultural Programs here at Iowa State University. His leadership is integral to making this event a huge success every year. He was recognized by the World Food Prize last fall with the inaugural Inspiring the Next Generation Award. He's pictured there with Norman Borlaug's daughter, Jeannie. This year at the World Food Prize Iowa Youth Institute, more than 300 students from all across Iowa participated. They had the opportunity to showcase their own work to fight global hunger and poverty and interact with Iowa State faculty and staff and students who are innovating solutions to these global challenges. A teacher from Nevada wrote us about his student, Amelia Jones. She's in the blue dress on the photo in the lower right. She returned from the Iowa Youth Institute with the goal of becoming an agronomist. She said her favorite sessions included crossbreeding soybean plants and learning about mung beans. She also enjoyed hands-on opportunities, learning how to separate strawberry, pea, and soybean DNA. We can arrange that for all of you whenever you're ready for that experience. In addition to Ambassador Quinn, the students also got to hear from Governor Reynolds and Lieutenant Governor Gregg and interact with other state and local leaders. We're just so pleased to have the opportunity to host this wonderful event. We're very pleased to recognize the achievements of two outstanding faculty members, Dr. Pat Teal, Distinguished Professor of Chemistry and Materials Science and Engineering, and a faculty scientist at the Ames Laboratory, has been elected as a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. This is an extremely prestigious honor, recognizing Dr. Teal's innovative research and scholarly excellence. Her research focuses on surface chemistry on an atomic scale and has advanced our understanding of quasi-crystals and metamaterials. She is one of only about 200 individuals to earn election into the 2019 class. Since 1780, the Academy has honored exceptionally accomplished individuals engaged in advancing the arts, democracy, education, global affairs, and science. She'll be formally inducted in October. We're also pleased to recognize Dr. Deborah Marquardt, Professor of English, who has been appointed by Governor Reynolds as Iowa's new poet laureate. This 2-year honorary post makes her the state's official poetic voice and the top advocate for poetry in Iowa. Dr. Marquardt is an award-winning author of 6 books. She has received more than 50 grants and contract awards, including a National Endowment for the Arts Fellowship, a PEN USA Nonfiction Award, and the Special Walkmeister Award. I need a German person here for excellence in the arts. Our faculty are also demonstrating entrepreneurial excellence. A company started by Iowa State professor was recently named Startup Technology Company of the Year. The award was presented by the Technology Association of Iowa during the 2019 Prometheus Awards program. Gross Wind Technologies was founded in 2014 by Dr. Wynn, Professor of Food Science and Human Nutrition, and Dr. Gross, former postdoc at Iowa State. The company uses a patented wastewater treatment technology to recover nutrients such as nitrogen and phosphorus from wastewater. In fact, the community of Slater recently installed Gross Wind's technology as part of a total upgrade of its wastewater treatment plant. Gross Wind was a member of the first cohort of the ISU Startup Factory, our startup accelerator program, and the company is housed at the ISU Research Park. Gross Wind was honored for demonstrating significant market potential, creativity, and a promising future. As part of our commitment to enhancing our welcoming and inclusive campus environment, we are creating a centralized physical space on campus where students with disabilities can have easy access to assistive technology resources. The Assistive Technology Lab will be located in Durham Hall and provide accessibility resources such as speech-to-text and text-to-speech tools, screen readers, and screen magnifiers. The lab will also provide peer mentoring and a space for community building. Faculty can use the lab to learn how to use assistive technology in the classroom and make their coursework digitally accessible. The project is being spearheaded by ISU's Digital Accessibility Coordinator, Cindy Wiley, and the Computational Advisory Committee, and the lab is slated to open this fall. Nearly 3 months after the floodwaters overwhelmed southwest Iowa, the recovery and cleanup continues. More rain has fallen, more families and businesses remain displaced, and farmers, not just in that part of the state, but across the state, have struggled to get into the fields for planting. This is where ISU Extension and Outreach comes in. Our Extension staff live and work in every Iowa county. They know how to connect their neighbors to Iowa State resources and with partner agencies because they do it every day. They do it especially well in times of crisis and natural disaster. ISU Extension and Outreach has organized meetings, provided spaces for citizens to hear from federal, state, and local agencies, and facilitated Q&A sessions. Extension staff continue to reach out to displaced families to offer resource information. One top resource is the Iowa Concern Hotline. Hotline counselors are key players in the Department of Human Services Project Recovery Outreach team and provide communication between the hotline, mental health centers, and individuals impacted by disasters. And as part of the Governor's Flood Recovery Advisory Board and working groups, ISU Extension Outreach continues to help farmers safely remove damaged grain, evaluate planting options, rehabilitate flooded land, and assess levees and infrastructure. This truly is Iowa State University's unique land-grant university mission. Finally, I want to recognize an outgoing and 2 incoming members of our excellent university leadership team. Sarah Ryala, Melsa Dean of Engineering, is retiring. We've had some wonderful opportunities over the past few months to recognize Dean Ryala and her pioneering efforts as the first female dean of the Engineering College at Iowa State University. During her 6-year tenure, the college grew to become the 8th largest college of engineering in the nation, with more than 9,500 students enrolled last fall. She has positioned the college for a strong future by supporting faculty and research excellence, leading efforts to build and renovate key facilities, launching innovative new programs, and always putting students first. Sam Easterling will take the helm in the College of Engineering in July. We're very excited to welcome him back to Iowa State. He's an ISU alumnus and recently served as the head of the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering at Virginia Tech. We look forward to how he will build on the college's excellence and national prestige. We also have a new president of the ISU Research Park. Rick Sanders succeeds Steve Carter, who retired in December following an 18-year tenure. Rick has served on the Story County Board of Supervisors since 2010 and is chair of that board from 2013 to 2018. Rick assumed his new role last week and will continue to cultivate the partnerships and develop new growth at the Research Park, which is truly a powerful engine of economic development for Iowa as a whole. So that's a quick update for Iowa State University. I'd be pleased to answer any questions if you have any this morning.
Are there any questions of President Wintersteen?
Nancy.
Regent Butler?
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Lots to be proud of there. On the technology assistive.
Yes, the disability, right.
So what do we do for deaf students?
So we have signers, we do other things, but if it's okay, could I ask either the provost or Anne Marie to give a more comprehensive response? Would either of you want to help me? Is that okay? Thanks, Anne Marie.
Yes, good morning. We do a number of different services for our students. The first place that they will go once they get to campus and they have a known hearing disability, they go to our Office of Student Accessibility. From there, they can identify what their needs are. If they need lecture capture or to have the slides available ahead of time so that they can review them before they get to class. If they require a signer, they're able to sign up for that, and then the signers will come in and actually be physically in the classroom. In other cases, if the material is recorded by the professor, then they can ask for that ahead of time as well, so they can get access to it and then ask questions once they get to class.
Do we have an adequate number of well-trained signers?
I would say that over the years, just in the last few number of years, we've had an increase of number of students with hearing disabilities. We are stretched to make sure we have enough signers. I was in a class this spring actually teaching, and there were 2 signers who were in the class during the time. They signed for a portion and then they switched, and then the other person would sign. So I think if we talked to our signers in our student accessibility office, they would say we're in need of more in order to meet the demand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Nancy, I would just add to that I just had a conversation with our interim VP for Human Resources just last week, and she was talking to me about this very specific issue of what more is needed to be done. I believe I'm correct in saying that we use a number of part-time individuals helping us as well, and she's trying to think what would be a more comprehensive approach that would help us better achieve in meeting the demand.
I just ask because I have recently met with a number of people in the deaf community, and they were saying how inadequate our supply of well-trained signers is in the state.
Just
and we
everywhere.
have, yeah.
And I think we do have, one of the models that we're looking at is using some of the students who are in our sign language program at Iowa State. But to your point of they are students and they are just developing their skills. And
Right.
so I would agree that there's need for the well-trained.
So
with
accuracy
experience.
is a possible flaw.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So I think that's something that we all need to be cognizant of, this void, and work toward fixing for these students. Thank you.
Great. Yeah,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
what you're
Thanks.
doing.
Sure.
Thanks, Anne Marie. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, President Wintersteen. Now I'd like to ask President Nook from the University of Northern Iowa to come and give his presentation.
Thank you. Well, good morning, and thank you again for the opportunity to address the board. It was just 4 weeks ago that we celebrated commencement as well. It's the biggest celebration on any university campus and the one that we get the most excited about. There were just about 1,600 graduates. We had 1,780 students actually walk across the stage because we allow students who are going to complete their degree during the summer also to walk, but additionally any of our teacher development students who are going to student teach in the fall, we allow them to walk at that time as well. So we have about 1,550 graduates and 1,780 students walking across the stage this year. Sort of a special commencement this year in that we've got 2 international MBA programs, one in Hong Kong and one in Shanghai. The program in Hong Kong has been going on for many years, 18 and 19 years now. But the program in Shanghai started just a couple of years ago and had their first graduates last summer. I and Dean Wilson from the College of Business Administration traveled to Shanghai last year to present diplomas in both Hong Kong and Shanghai. And the students at Shanghai in particular, as being part of that initial cohort, were so excited and wanted to know more about UNI, and we're so proud of having a UNI diploma that they wanted to come to commencement. So about 20 of the students from that cohort showed up for commencement this year and walked across the stage as well. It was really nice to have them on our campus and be able to see them again. At our commencement, our commencement speakers are students. We don't bring people in from the outside. We ask a student at each of our commencement exercises to give the address. And this year, speaker was Kyla Ford, who was receiving a bachelor's degree in social work. She's from Lisbon, Iowa, in the Cedar Rapids area. Kyla, when she was 17, left her mother's house, left their home, and decided to enroll at Kirkwood Community College. She had just been diagnosed with chronic regional pain syndrome and was recovering from the surgery as she started school. And she got into studying human services while she was there and completed a 2-year degree. But as she was doing that, in one of her courses, they were talking about mental health, and she had always struggled with mental health but didn't really realize it, and kind of came to that conclusion at that time, and it had impacted her family for a long, long time. And sort of that process helped her realize where she really wanted to go. And she transferred to the University of Northern Iowa and studied social work at UNI. But as she transitioned to her campus, she also got extremely involved and engaged in our campus and worked with ethnic student promoters and our Student Social Work Association, the UNI Mental Health Council, as well as UNI's NAACP chapter. So just became incredibly involved. As she was working on this, she also became involved with the Ronald E. McNair Post-Baccalaureate Achievement Program. And this is a program through the TRIO program that helps undergraduates who are in underserved populations in particular start to think about what graduate work might be like, that there are careers that aren't open to you without graduate degrees. And after graduation, Kyla is headed to the University of Illinois at Chicago to work on a doctorate in community psychology. So just a remarkable story, and I think one that's pretty typical in the state of Iowa, students starting at community colleges and then transferring and moving through one of the regential institutions in an extremely successful transition. So we're excited to see where Kyla's future lies and continue to be in touch with her, but an amazing young woman. We had two athletes that I want to share their stories with you, and one of them has been in the press a lot, and the other one hasn't been in the press as much as I believe it should be. Drew Foster won the NCAA Division I National Wrestling Championship at 184 pounds this year. I like to say that Drew and I are exactly alike. We both weigh the same amount. We both grew up in small rural towns in high school. Neither one in Iowa, neither one of us ever won a state championship in wrestling, though we both wrestled in high school. He went on and won a national title, so, well, 4 out of 5. What I really was impressed with Drew, though, it's one thing to win a national title. It's another to be extremely graceful. As he came off the mat at the national tournament, they stick a microphone in each champion's face immediately. And Drew, the first thing he did was just kind of push it away and go hug his mom and dad. They were sitting not so nearby, but close enough. And then just as the mic came back, his teammates, he had 5 other teammates at the tournament, they came running up and he pushed the mic away again to meet and greet them. But then in the after interview, they asked him, are you going to go on and wrestle in the Olympics and develop it professionally? He says, well, first of all, I've got to complete my student teaching this fall. And so it really was this direction of the things that are important. Now, that also allowed him to continue to work with the UNI wrestling program. And so he talked about how that would work out as well. But just a remarkable young man. He wants to go into education and teach and coach and maybe be a principal or a superintendent. So extremely proud of Drew Foster. He was also the Big 12's Wrestler of the Year, 2-time Big 12 champion in wrestling. Jessica Himes is a story that needs to be told, I think, a little bit more often. She's a sophomore biology major from Swisher. She's a para-Olympian and a para-athlete on the UNI track team. She competes in the sprints and in discus, and this year in May she set the world record in the discus for F64 para-Olympians. And then a week and a half later broke it. And she currently holds the fastest time in the 100 meters amongst F64 para-Olympians. She competed in the 2016 Paralympics in both the 400 meters and the discus and placed in both of those, in the top 8 in both of those. And she is already on this year's, on the U.S. Paralympic team. headed to the Olympics in a couple of years. So she was born with some deformities in her lower leg, and her parents made the really tough decision when she was about a year old to have that leg amputated. And she says it's the best decision that anybody has ever made. It gave her the opportunity to actually start to use prosthetics and use that leg. And then at the age of 12, she became a para-athlete and started competing, and is just a delightful young woman to be around. So we're very proud of these two young athletes, but all the athletes at the University of Northern Iowa. As part of our spring activities each year, we honor our students that have been engaged in leadership activities and other activities around our campus. And our Muslim Student Association this year received 2 awards at that leadership celebration. The Muslim Student Organization received the award for Outstanding Organization, and they put on a particular program called A Rabbi, a Pastor, and an Imam, Stronger Together. And I had the opportunity to actually attend this program. They bring in a pastor, a rabbi, an imam, and have a conversation about some of the differences and similarities in religious faiths in those 3 religions, and then talk a lot about how to understand each other's cultures and backgrounds and make them work together. We have an incredible group of young people in the Muslim Student Organization, and they're doing a great job of reaching out across our campus and helping all of us, students, faculty, and staff, understand some of the challenges that Muslim students face, but more importantly, how our cultures are similar, how they differ, and how we can work together to be stronger. The Iowa Campus Compact each year has an awards ceremony and presents community engagement awards. Iowa Campus Compact really focuses on community engagement. It's with private colleges and universities as well as the publics. And this year, 2 of our signature programs were awarded awards, and one of our faculty members was a finalist for an award as well. I would talk just a little bit about each of those. Panthers Vote is a nonpartisan organization or movement on campus to get the vote out, get the student vote out. And in the last election, and not this past one, but the one before that, the last presidential election, there's a national organization that tracks student voting records. They're telling us that we had the 2nd highest voter turnout of any university or college in the country. We were up very near 70% turnout, which is incredible for any group of voters, let alone students. So just an incredible organization, really just turning the vote out, getting people to think critically about what's going on and participate actively in the democracy that we all cherish so much. The UNI Embark program is a program that is Ethnic Minorities of Burma Advocacy and Resource Center. This year, they hosted an English language learners youth conference. And they had 100 English language learners from Waterloo West High School to the first ever English language learners conference. This was supported by the 2 faculty members that you see here, Kara Burnage and Yasmin Sari. And it really is the philosophy, both of these are UNI philosophy and religion professors, and they and their students then put this program together and then reached out to these students. And the whole goal of this thing, the purpose of the conference, was to both develop leadership skills in current students, but also to showcase the benefits of higher education to potential first-generation college students. And finally, Julian Gassman is someone that has spoken to the board just a little over a year ago, an associate professor and director of our community engagement at UNI. She also started the nonprofit leadership program and the Cedar Valley Nonprofit Association. She has a distinguished record of community service, and she was a finalist for the Civic Mission Leadership Award from Iowa Campus Compact. So congratulations to all of them. Grow Cedar Valley is the new name of the Greater Cedar Valley Chamber and Alliance. They have recently rebranded taken on a new name, new logo, those sorts of things. They have, over the last 5 or 6 years, started an organization inside that is known as the Cedar Valley Economic Inclusion Partnership. It's a task force that consists of members from around the Cedar Valley to promote the business case and the impact of inclusion in the Cedar Valley. And as part of that, they have developed a series of awards to recognize businesses that are committed to economic inclusion. And this year, the University of Northern Iowa was voted the large business in the Cedar Valley for Economic Inclusion Partnership Award. So congratulations to the people that were working on that. The 8th annual African American Children and Families Conference was held back in February, and I just haven't had a chance to tell you at all about this in the past. This is a conference that's for educators and administrators, child care providers, law enforcement, policymakers, healthcare providers, social workers, business leaders, middle and high school students, and UNI faculty and staff. So if you live in the Cedar Valley, come on down. You're part of this. It's pretty much open for everyone. But it's really a conference that promotes an understanding of culture, ethnicity, race, and social and economic status, and the needs of the African American children and families in our community in particular. This was several of the topics included the challenges of deficit thinking among African American children and students, and addressing grade level reading issues and disparities in our schools. And we had a number of organizations that helped with this program as well, but just a wonderful outreach to our local community. Also, another outstanding outreach to the local community was a new program called UNI Shine, and Shine stands for Strong, Healthy, Independent, Natural, and Empowered, and it's for young women, young girls. It was held on March 5th and 6th by UNIQ, our Center for Urban Education, and our guest speaker was Diana Payton. Diana is an attorney, and she presents to organizations and women's groups on identity, improving self-image, and leading personal change. She's also a former business executive, so she has the experience to walk into CEOs and boardrooms and carry on a conversation about the impact of race and diversity and women in the workforce. This is part of UNI's educational talent search program, reaching out to young women and girls and helping them understand the advantages of higher education, the possibilities that are in front of them with a degree from a university or a college. This is the 50th anniversary year of the landing, the Apollo 11 landing on the moon. It's coming up later this summer. And Greta Berghammer, a professor in our theater program, put together a interactive theater program called To Touch the Moon for people who are on the spectrum. And it is an immersive theater, and this particular play is actually set up in 3 parts. And they happen on different days. It isn't one theater event at a time, it's 3 theater events, 3 acts. The first of those is creation, the second is exploration, and the final lunar contact. And I had the opportunity to go to one of these, and the students have guides that are with them, but the particular one I went to was the creation. It really is, you're on planet Earth, you're kind of out in the wilderness, you kind of look around and explore the environment you're in. They look at the rocks, the tent that's there, they talk about the different things. But then they dim the lights, and as you can see, they put the stars up on this dome that they've created in the moon, and they tell some of the lore and legends of constellations and things of that sort. So throughout this, it really is an opportunity for us to reach out to the autism spectrum students that are around the Cedar Valley. And we've gotten a lot of interest from NASA about taking this possibly on the road. So just an incredible presentation and outreach. Finally, our students at UNI Dance Marathon have been at it again this year and knocked it out of the park. A year ago, they raised $550,000, besting the goal of $520,000 that they had sent. This year, they set a goal of $620,000, and they hit $680,000. And so the check's in the mail. Bruce, we'll get it to you soon. But they also, we found out, were number 4 in top monetary growth in fundraising with this event. So just outstanding work. To date, they've raised more than $2.6 million in 8 years. They have, all of the money goes to the Stead Family Children's Hospital, and they've supported a transport team, a new pediatric ambulance, and 3 hospital rooms, a NICU operating room, a patient respite lounge, and a pediatric ICU patient room. So just amazing work that this group of about 1,000 students on our campus do every year, just continue to keep the machine well-oiled and moving and raising a great deal of money for an extremely worthy project. So thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Are there any questions of President Nook?
Thank you.
Thank your students for that.
Yeah, you bet I will.
At this time, I'd like to call on Superintendent Gettel from the special schools.
Seems to crash our system. We did this yesterday. Too big, maybe? No, it came up eventually. It shouldn't be that big. Yeah. Oh, shoot. I can run through it without.
Do you have it on that computer?
No.
Oh.
Yes, I do.
If you do, can
I'll have to bring it up on a. To get back to my email. I can't quite see. I've never done this before. I can't find Outlook.
right under OneDrive.
There we are.
Come on, what is wrong? Yeah, it's
Yeah. This isn't.
just we won't launch PowerPoint anymore.
If I bring the jump drive back, will that work?
Maybe.
We can just go with this.
Okay. Sorry about that.
We'll just go with the handouts. Maybe it'll come up. Well, good morning, and apologize for the bulkiness of our PowerPoint. I think Cindy makes them too big. There's too many pixels in the JPEGs, maybe. But I did have handouts for you there. It's a pleasure to provide some information about some of the successes of our kids over the last month or so. And what I wanted to share with you today is some information about programs that we provide for students we serve statewide. We're really going to look at some of the athletic and extracurricular opportunities that these kids have access to that's unique for them as deaf and blind kids that they don't get to receive any other way. And the first slide there on that handout, this is information about ISBVI's swim and forensic teams. And they competed this spring in events that are for blind, visually impaired students through the North Central Association of Schools for the Blind. There are 12 states that participate in that association, and we're the only state that participates with students that are served through an itinerant service model. All the other kids that participate come out of residential schools for the blind in those other 11 states. The kinds of activities that are supported through NCASB are wrestling, cheerleading, goalball, track, swimming, and forensics. And this year, our forensics and swim teams had students representing Centerpoint, Storm Lake, Carlisle, Des Moines, Hubbard, Hinton, Nevada, and Kalmar. And being spread across the state like that, you can understand the challenges of getting the kids together to practice. And so, of course, individual sports tend to work better, but we still find ways to get kids together prior to the competitions with coaches who are usually our staff, TDIs, or orientation mobility specialists. And when they're doing individual practices, oftentimes, especially for swimming, they might be at the local YMCA, and they'll have somebody that can support them there. The Lions clubs are the ones that will help us out with paying for fees to use facilities. And then the kids will travel together. This last spring competition was in Indiana, at the Indiana School for the Blind. And the swimmers, I'll tell you a little bit about the coaches do send assignments for the kids to do workouts and practice on their own. The forensics team, they'll practice through FaceTime sessions or Zoom sessions with their coaches, so they can use video technology for that, to support that. The forensics team scored 4th overall, and we had 3 first place winners in various events. The girls' free relay swim team placed 1st, and the team overall placed 6th. And there were 12 teams competing in Indiana. And then back in March at the Illinois school, and that's in Jacksonville, our kids competed, and they were down a few members. They had 4 of 6 of their swim team members there, and at that event they still placed 4th overall. And we have generated probably more interest in the last couple of years with that program, as we've had, more coaches involved. We haven't always had as many as 4 or 5 different activities supported, but we do support all of the activities now, including goalball. And then we had a robotics event that our kids have been involved in the last 3 years. And then on the east side of the state, we had a number of extended learning opportunities at Grant Wood AEA. The students there, and this was for kids with additional disabilities and younger kids, but they learned how to use iPads with voiceover, so they didn't have to actually use their hands to type in commands. But they were able to program their own little robots and use that technology then to participate in developing and understanding a little bit about how code works. We had 9 students involved in that activity. That was from Dubuque and the Decorah area. And then the next slide is about graduation. We had 8 students graduating from ISD in May, on May 24th. So we had 8 students join the ranks of the alumni of the Iowa School for the Deaf. Those 8 students earned almost $24,000 in scholarships. 5 seniors are pursuing college. They plan to study environmental science, animal science, dental hygiene, education, diesel mechanics. One of the students is enrolling in Gallaudet. The others are, and one is enrolling at Rochester Institute of Technology. The other 3 students are enrolling in community colleges here in Iowa. And then the one plans to get her degree in education, would like to pursue deaf education. And so she's looking down the road at going to Peru State in Nebraska. We had one student that's going to go into employment. He's traveling out of state with his family and plans to just get into work. We had 2 students that were enrolled in our ISD transition program this coming fall, and they'll attend Iowa Western College. Those are the 2 kids that are studying diesel mechanics. And then the last slide, just wanted to talk about some of the awards that our kids received this year through participation, again, in competitions that are specifically set up for students who are deaf or blind across the country. We had 2 sophomores that received honorable mention for their written work in the Gallaudet University's annual National Literacy Competition. We've had students enter that every year, and we've had kids win first place in that in the past. Then students from across the country submit their best work. They don't have to apply to a specific category. It can be visual art, it can be written works, it can be poetry, or short stories, and this year Jesse Murray submitted a short story and Ashley Schroeder submitted a poem, and they were received honorable mention. And then earlier in April, 4 students were published in the Council Bluffs area Writers Touch Literacy magazine, and that's for students in the Council Bluff area, and the kids are from middle school and high school. We had middle school students, Holly Schroeder and Ashley Vera, who had their artwork published. And then a senior who graduated this year, Hannah Cole, had a poem that was selected, and then a sophomore, Nicole Jurgensen, had a short story that was published. And their work can, if you want to see it, it's on our ISD website. And then back in the early April, the foundation provided support for a group of students and a middle school math teacher to go to Rochester Institute of Technology, the National Institute of Technology for the Deaf. There was a middle school math competition. It's a national math competition, and this is the first time we've sent a group of students. They didn't win any awards, but they were really excited to go, got a chance to learn what it's like to be in a competition with a lot of other kids, and just the experience overall was good for them. We plan to see if we can continue that as an annual event for kids, stimulate their interest in the area study in math. And then I just got an email, and I had looked at it here. There's a National Interscholastic Athletic Association for Deaf Athletes. It's kind of a long name, but they recognize deaf athletes from high schools across the country, kids out of public schools, kids out of residential schools, for football, basketball, and track. And we submitted into that. There will be 36 programs for the deaf that were in, where they had submissions this spring for track, and those were programs for the boys, and then 31 programs for the girls. You can submit up to 3 students for each event, either team or individual. So you're looking at about a pool of 100 students for each event, and we had a number of students that placed in the top 50. We had our relay teams, the 4x100 and 4x200, were placed 11th out of that group of students whose names were submitted, and a number of, all together we had 15 students. That's nearly everybody that was in the track team that actually placed in the top 50 across the country for their participation in track and field. And so that's pretty exciting. And it's motivational for the kids, and it's a way to recognize kids that otherwise, aren't going to get much recognition, because, when you're attending a residential school, it's not like being in the state athletic association system where you're going to be competing. We're again, kind of in our Great Plains Schools for the Deaf Association, a collection of 8 schools but gives kids the opportunity to participate in basketball, volleyball, track, and then the national, or the North Central Association of Schools for the Blind, something similar. It's a great thing to support, and our kids enjoy it. Our parents appreciate the fact that their kids have a chance to participate and compete. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. And
Are there any questions of Superintendent Gettel?
thank you.
Thank you.
We'll
Thank
get
you
our
very much.
slides to work next time.
And at this time, I'd like to recognize President Harreld, who will speak about the University of Iowa.
Good morning, President Richards and members of the board. Like our sister institutions, last month 5,280 Hawkeyes became part of our alumni family that is now over 275,000 strong. This latest generation of alumni will absolutely impact the communities around the world in significant ways, and their time at the UI, I'm sure, will be part of their lives forever. Before I go any further, I'd like to just call out a couple of highlights in the graduation ceremony. First of all, we had the honor of honoring Mary Sue Coleman, who was our 18th president and is currently, in the last several years, been the president of the American Association of Universities, of which Iowa State and ourselves are members. It was really great to have her home. I will say parenthetically, all of our living presidents will be on campus for homecoming this fall. I'd love to see you there as well. And it's going to be a great time. We also, during that ceremony and throughout the year, had the opportunity of points of distinction of honoring our 21st Rhodes Scholar from the University of Iowa, Austin Hughes. When he gets to Oxford here in a few weeks, he will be met by our 20th, Jeffrey Ding, who is still there. We actually, last year, were fortunate enough to have 11 Fulbright scholars in last year's class, so many that the Chronicle of Higher Education referred to us as a Fulbright factory. Well, this year we went from 11 to 17, so the factory is alive and well, and it's really an honor to be part of not only that institution, but of a state that has generated so many outstanding scholars and leaders for the world. The next piece that I'd like to just touch on is that 86 counties, 38 states, 38 countries represented in this graduating class, and we're clearly making an impact not only on just here at home, but across the nation and the world. While this global impact is often what the headlines are all about, I think we often overlook the importance of the individuals that we touch. And it's really these individual stories, I think, at least for me, motivates me every day and drives all of us, I hope, I know, towards continued excellence. Emma Keefe. Emma's from Marion, Iowa, and she's one of our students that participated in over half a dozen of high-impact practices, which you hear me talk about a lot, which is what do we do to actually engage not only the mind, but the spirit of and hearts of our students. These experiences created a path that eventually fed to a successful internship for Emma at Ernst & Young in Minneapolis. Yet when a job offer came from Ernst & Young in the Minneapolis office, believe it or not, Emma declined. It just didn't feel right. She wanted to stay here at her home in Iowa. Well, guess what? She stood up and she explained to Ernst & Young what her concerns were, and Ernst & Young didn't want to lose her. And so they decided that this talented young professional needed to stay in Ernst & Young, and they switched offices and allowed her to start her career in their Des Moines office. As a result, Ernst & Young is better off, Emma's better off, and I think Iowa's better off. And this is part of, I think, of a dialogue often that we overlook as well, because we're so concerned about students leaving our state. Well, guess what? A lot of students want to stay in state, and a lot of our alumni, as they experience other parts of the world, want to come home at some point. Finally, I'd like to also pass along some interesting good news about a recent communication we received from the Higher Learning Commission. The Higher Learning Commission is our accreditation body, or one of, and we just received the draft of their final report from their site visit team. They had 6 people here for the better part of a week, and that really simplifies it because this work starts long before that site team gets on site. HLC evaluates the university on 5 main criteria, with many sub-criteria under each of these 5 pillars. The first being mission-driven. The second is operating with integrity. The third is the quality and resources and support for teaching and learning across our university. The fourth is evaluation and improvement for teaching and learning. And the fifth is institutional effectiveness and planning for the future. The final report is extremely positive, and it recommends reaccrediting the University of Iowa for the maximum period of 10 years. So the next site visit will be in 2028 and 29. This is quite an incredible accomplishment. I would like to just, I don't know if Tanya is behind me, she was here yesterday. Tanya Uden-Holman led that effort, an incredible accomplishment, as well as Sue in the provost's office. So congratulations to all involved. Now let me go into some other issues. I think we all can agree, you've seen this chart many times, I've talked about it. Our students, like Emma, deserve access to high-quality education, just like their peers in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan. And in fact, the University of Iowa uses those institutions as well as 7 other schools in order to benchmark our performance in almost everything we do. This benchmarking of student success clearly illustrates where we need to improve, thereby helping us to focus our resources on areas of critical need. Here you'll see how we stack up against key student success metrics versus our peers. While we're not at all satisfied with our current retention rate relative or the 4-year graduation relative to our peers, we're performing well above the national average. These are exceptional institutions. The 81% for retention rates nationally and 35% for 4-year graduation rates are pretty doggone good. And fortunately, we're better than that, but relative to this peer group, we've got some work to do. So in a sense, we're okay, but I think Iowans deserve better than okay. And that's what I'd like to focus on. I'd like to also show you a longer-term trend of our U.S. News and World Rankings. Now, while no one wants to highlight, and be careful of this graph, because if you go up, you're actually doing a little worse. And while no one wants to highlight a fall in their rankings, it's important for you and all of our constituents to understand that we have a plan for addressing this slide. That plan is, in fact, our strategic plan, and in particular, the elements of our strategic plan that are devoted to student success. We must improve our first-year retention rates, our 4- and 6-year graduation rates, as well as our research, scholarship, and productivity. And, as I've talked about many times, with sufficient resources to fund the strategic plan, we can, in fact, get there. And what I'd like to do is spend a little time talking about that plan. Our strategic plan requires an investment of nearly $33 million per year. And we at the university view that as a shared investment between the university, the students, and the state. The university, for its part, is committed to finding over 1/3 or $11 million per year through realignment, cost savings, and other activities. This constant reevaluation of what we are doing and how we are doing it allows the university to become more impactful and efficient year by year. This alone, however, is not enough to improve our outcomes for the long term. We must have new, sustainable, and predictable resources in order to invest in our future. On the tuition front, with the board's recently announced 5-year tuition plan, you have provided us and our families the predictability we so desperately need in this area. We thank you. Together, our internal actions combined with the board's predictable tuition plan still leaves, however, a gap of $14 to $16 million per year. To close this gap, we are currently exploring a public-private partnership with the UI's utility system, which I'd now like to spend a few moments describing. First, the UI today owns its utility system, which includes the UI power plant, water treatment, chilled water, as well as the distribution tunnels under our campus. If the university completes this transaction, the UI will still own that utility system. Let me say that once again. If the university completes this deal, we will not be selling or leasing. We will still own the utility system. So you may be asking at this point, what's the benefit of this transaction? Well, under this agreement, the UI will receive an upfront payment that the University of Iowa would place in a new endowment. The university would then use the proceeds from that endowment on funding the university's long-term strategic plan, in essence, filling the gap I described just a few moments ago. The prospective partner would receive a steady financial return for management of our utility system with tax benefits that accrue to them, and actually tax benefits that we cannot actually tap into ourselves because we're a public nonprofit institution. Again, this partnership is not a sale of the university's utility system, nor is it a strategy to eliminate employee jobs. In fact, if our employees do not want to join the partner, they will have the choice to continue their employment with the university. And finally, the University of Iowa will continue its very important, very critical sustainability commitments for being coal-free by the year 2025. As I previously stated, the proceeds of any partnership would be placed into an endowment, and only the proceeds would be spent. But to ensure we maximize the use of these new resources, the university will use our recently implemented budget and resource allocation process, which you've heard me talk about ad nauseum over the last several years. I think we all believe a good budgeting process needs to be transparent, have clear accountability, be flexible, and connect to the institution's strategy. Over the past few years, the University of Iowa has been working on implementing just such a budgeting process, and it's now fully implemented and operating as we had anticipated. While we still have much to learn, the ability for our academic leadership to now plan and fund and be in control of their own fiscal destiny has resulted in strategic initiatives being enhanced, and more importantly, we can now see exactly how all of our resources are being used. We expect this transparency and accountability will also enhance your ability, important ability, to hold us accountable as we execute against our strategic plan. This transparency will also ensure that we are only spending any resources realized from a potential partnership in a way that is impactful and directly connected to our strategic plan, as well as sustainable into the future. I've been impressed and proud of our campus's engagement surrounding this proposal over the last many, many months. The robust dialogue that has occurred has created a better proposal while deepening our knowledge of our utility system. We are still in the process of education and discovery, and the next step of that process begins basically right about now. In the next few weeks, we will receive bids from potential partners. The deadline is June 14th, and I want to be very clear with you, our board and our community, that this is by no means a done deal. Beyond just the financial aspects of this deal, before entering into any agreement, we need to be sure that our values and commitments regarding employees, sustainability, and culture are not challenged. Thus, I remain skeptical, as I've said to you privately, that at the end of the exploration, that what deal will be in the best interest of our university. However, given the impact and potential significance of such an event in terms of funding our ability to get at improving the student success, research, and engagement of our university, it is imperative that we pursue this process to its logical conclusion. Now I'd like to bring us back to an important issue that permeates the entirety of our strategic plan, and that is diversity, equity, and inclusion. When we first developed our strategic plan, the 3 pillars that I described just a few moments ago, student success, research, and engagement, were the primary front and center focus. The more we worked as a community on it, we started to realize that for us, as well as I think for many institutions, the what you need to accomplish, student success, research, and engagement, may not be nearly as important as how you get there. And as we worked it as a group, we started realizing just reaching those, if you will, strategic goals without recognition of the way we want to work together would be an empty process. And so we have spent a lot of time trying to understand the importance of collaboration, of being inclusive, dealing with one another in an equitable way, and the importance not just for diversity in our population, not just because it's the right thing to do, but also makes us stronger because we get different viewpoints into our processes. And as you may have seen here recently, we released a comprehensive report that showed we have work to do in a number of the areas in this respect. And our goals of creating and sustaining an inclusive and equitable campus environment still remain before us. But that doesn't mean we're not going to go down the journey. This is a very important set of activities. This report has allowed the university to develop a specific set of action plans that will move us forward on this path. And it's also greatly influenced our recent recruitment of a new vice president for diversity, equity, and inclusion, who I'll mention here on the next slide. On June 28th, we will be welcoming a triumvirate of new leaders to our university. And we couldn't be more excited for them to be joining us. Dr. Montse Fuentes, our new provost, will be building off a strong base due to the tremendous work of Sue Curry and her team. Sue, thank you for your remarkable leadership. I'm going to miss you, but you're going to be back because we've got a lot of things for you to do. When Montse gets to campus, she will hit the ground running because of a lot of the work in the strategic plan. Her distinguished record as a scholar and administrator will be an outstanding addition to our community. Dr. Marty Schultz comes into a research office that is as strong as it's ever been due to the leadership of John Keller. John, if you're in the room or somewhere else listening, thank you, and I'm pleased that you will still also be on campus full-time, continuing as the dean of our graduate college. And finally, as I mentioned a moment ago, we have recruited a new leader of our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, Dr. Tawan Wilson. Tawan will be joining our community at a critical time as we double down on these important activities. All of this is only possible, frankly, because of the leadership of Dr. Melissa Shivers, who I know is in the back of the room, and she's done an amazing job of working with our campus to build the data, the strategy necessary, and all the rest to make sure we achieve these important outcomes in this critical area. Melissa, thank you, and I look forward to continuing to work with you and moving our student life efforts forward. Finally, I'd be remiss if I did not highlight the amazing results of our student athletes this spring. It seemed like for a while there, everyone was winning. Spencer Lee, as a repeat national champion to our men's, was celebrated in the state capitol a few months ago. Our men's gymnastics team brought home the Big Ten regular season championship trophy. Our men's track team won the outdoor championships. And then finally, of course, our Big Ten tournament championship and Elite Eight women's basketball team was simply amazing. And we were so pleased to have the best player in the nation in Megan Gustafson and the best coach in the nation, Lisa Bluter. What a phenomenal spring. So indeed, this has been an amazing time for us on and off the field, and I'd be glad to take any questions you may have.
Are there any questions for President Harreld? Thank you. At this time, I'd like to recognize Brad Berg from the Board of Regents office, who will discuss tuition and fees.
Thank you, President Richards and members of the board. Before you today is the second and final reading of the proposed tuition and fees for the 2019-20 academic year. All proposed rates remain unchanged from those presented in April. They include a 3.9% increase to the undergraduate resident tuition rates at the University of Iowa and Iowa State University, and no increase at the University of Northern Iowa. Iowa and Iowa State also propose varying increases to non-resident tuition and mandatory fees to certain programs as outlined in your budget materials. The board's also asked to approve the allocation of the student activities and student services fee and the building fees as recommended by the student fee committees at the various campuses, and this is required by statute and the bond covenants. And with that, I would be happy to respond to any questions you may have.
Are there any questions of Brad? This is an item that we spend a lot of time discussing during the year. And with the, over the past year, we had our public task force. We created guidelines that we projected forward, and the tuition increase that we're talking about is within those guidelines. Are there any other questions before Brad? A motion and second are required to approve the following. The proposed conditional tuition and related fees for the 2019-2020 academic year as outlined in the agenda items effective with fall session 2019. The allocation of the Regent University's mandatory student fees for the 2019-2020 academic year is outlined in the agenda item. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Regent Bates moves and Regent County seconds. Is there any discussion? We'll have a roll call vote. Regent Barker,
Yes.
Regent Bates,
Yes.
Regent Butker,
Yes.
Regent County,
Yes.
Regent Dokovich is absent, Regent Dunkel,
Yes.
Regent Least is absent, Regent Lindemeyer,
Yes.
Regent Richards votes yes. The motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. At this time, I'd like to recognize Andrea Anania from the Board of Regents office, who will discuss the common and university program specific fees.
This is also the second reading for the common and university program specific fees for academic year 2019-2020. All of the changes are highlighted in blue. There are no changes since they were first presented to you in May. The board is asked to approve the changes today.
Are there any questions? Andrea? A motion and second are required to approve the proposed changes for the common and university program specific fees for the 2019-20 academic year as outlined in the agenda item. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Regent County moves and Regent Butker seconds. Any discussion? We'll have a roll call vote. Regent Barker,
Yes.
Regent Bates,
Yes.
Regent Butker,
Yes.
Regent County,
Yes.
Regent Dokovich is absent, Regent Dunkel,
Yes.
Regent Least is absent, Regent Lindemeyer,
Yes.
Regent Richards votes yes. The motion is approved. Thank you. I'm going to take a moment to talk about compensation. Moving on to the next item. The most important thing that the Board of Regents does is select the presidents of our institutions, the superintendent of our special schools, and the leadership of our board office. These leaders have many diverse groups that they serve and are responsible to, but they each report directly to the Board of Regents. In addition to a year-long interaction with each one of these leaders, we spent the last 2 days discussing and evaluating their performance. The purpose of the annual evaluations that the board held during this meeting is to review their performance. The board takes this role very seriously. There is a strong feeling that we have the right individuals to lead our public universities, and that these people bring a diverse mix of skills. Together, they are a very strong team that can help lead the entire state of Iowa Regent system now and into the future. Stability in the university leadership is conducive to successful implementation of strategic visions at our universities. The goal of the Board of Regents is to determine how we can help our universities continue with the current leadership team. We want to be clear and transparent to all that this is the team we want to be here now and in the foreseeable future. To implement that strategy, we will be addressing the contracts of our leaders. Here are a few specific points we want to talk about. We want to clean up start times so that when possible, contracts coincide with academic year, July 1st to June 30th. Number 2, when possible, we want to bring all deferred compensation plans in line with the person's period of employment. And 3, most importantly, we want to extend the contracts of our leaders so that they will have time to finish what they have started. With that as a background, let me turn this meeting over to Regent Barker for a motion.
President Richards, I agree that we are fortunate to have a talented group of leaders who work together as a team and are accomplishing great things. Accordingly, I move that the Board of Regents approve the following personnel actions. For Superintendent Gettel, increase his base salary by 2.1% effective July 1st, 2019. And award a performance incentive of $20,000 and establish a new performance incentive for fiscal year 2020 of $20,000. For Executive Director Braun, extend his employment agreement through June 30th, 2024. Award a performance incentive of $35,000. Establish a new performance incentive for fiscal year 2020 in the amount of $60,000. And establish a new deferred compensation plan commencing on July 1st, 2019 and terminating on June 30th, 2021 with annual contributions of $75,000. For President Wintersteen, extend her employment agreement through June 30th, 2023, extend her 2017 deferred compensation plan through June 30th, 2023, with additional contributions of $200,000 annually during the period of November 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. For President Harreld, extend his employment agreement through June 30th, 2023, extend his 2015 deferred compensation plan through June 30th, 2023, with the following additional contributions: an increase of $200,000 annually during the period of July 1st, 2019 through October 31st, 2020. $400,000 annually during the period of November 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. For President Nook, extend his employment agreement through June 30th, 2025, with an option to renew for 2 additional years through June 30th, 2027. Extend his 2018 deferred compensation plan through June 30th, 2025, with the following additional contributions: an increase of $25,000 during the period of July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, and $100,000 annually during the period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2025.
Is there any discussion?
Excuse me, is there a second?
Oh, yeah, excuse me.
I'll
Yes,
second.
We need a second. Is there a second to this motion? Regent Butker. Okay. Is there any discussion on this? Okay, we will have a roll call vote. Regent Barker,
Yes.
Regent Bates,
Yes.
Regent Butker,
Yes.
Regent County,
Yes.
Regent Dokovich is absent, Regent Dunkel,
Yes.
Regent Least is absent, Regent Lindemeyer,
Yes.
Regent Richards votes yes. The motion is approved. And yesterday we went through the legislative session. The board has necessity to meet in closed session for the following reasons. In accordance with Iowa Code Section 21.5.1.c, to discuss strategy with counsel in matters that are presently in litigation or where litigation is imminent and premature disclosure would likely prejudice or disadvantage the positions of the board. And B, in accordance with Iowa Code Section 21.5.1.a and E, to review confidential records in the matter of 2 student appeals. At the conclusion of the closed session, the board will reconvene in open session. Is there a motion that the board enter into closed session?
I so move.
Who moved? Bates. Okay. And County. Regent Bates moved and Regent County seconded. Any discussion? We'll have a roll call vote. Regent Barker,
Yes.
Regent Bates,
Yes.
Regent Butker,
Yes.
Regent County,
Yes.
Regent Dunkel,
Yes.
Regent Lindemeyer,
Yes.
Regent Richards votes yes. The motion is approved. We'll now go into closed session. Board of Regents is now in open session. Is there a motion before the board?
I make the motion.
Regent Dunkel, please proceed.
Okay. In the matter of the appeal of student A, I move that the board affirm the final institutional decision in its entirety. And in the matter of the appeal of student B, I move that the board reverse the final institutional decision in part and remand the matter back to the university to proceed in accordance with the executive director's instructions.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Regent County seconded. Is there any further discussion? There'll be a roll call vote. Regent Bates,
Yes.
Regent Dunkel,
Yes.
Regent Lindemeyer,
Yes.
Regent County,
Yes.
Regent Barker,
Yes.
Regent Butker is absent, Regent Dakovich is absent, Regent Least is absent, Regent Richards votes yes. The motion is approved. Is there any other business? Do we have?
We should go through the motion on public comment.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, good. At this time, we have the public comment before the board. The board recognizes that the opportunity for expression of public views on issues that come before the board is important. Each presenter is limited to 3 minutes of time. We will now open the microphone for the first presenter. Thank you. Was that recorded? There is no one signed up for public comment. Thank you, Josh. Is there any other business to come before the Board of Regents? Hearing none, this meeting of the Board of Regents, State of Iowa is adjourned.